everyone, my name is Julia Doherty from the Adventure Geek / the Camino Talk Show, and today we're going to be talking all about the Camino. But the best way of finding out about the Camino is not by reading blogs, it's not by going on forums, it's actually by talking to real pilgrims who have been there, done it, and literally just got the t-shirt. And I think we all got the t-shirts, don't you think, Sue, when we got to Santiago? Yes. Okay, so if you're not sure what the Camino is about, it's a trek across northern Spain. Most people do the French route, which is where I've met Sue, and we walk in all the way across Spain until we get to Santiago de Compostela, where we get our Compostela for walking over 800 kilometres. And I think Sue's got one there, actually. You're going to wave it in front. Yay! You get it in a little tube like that, and it's a certificate. She collects stamps along the way. Yay! There you go. Proof that she is a true pilgrim. But actually, at the end of the pilgrimage in Santiago, fantastic, is the remains of St. James, and the cathedral and the pilgrims' mass over in Santiago is just astounding. Anyway, I'm delighted that you've joined us today, Sue, because you are a true pilgrim, and your story has just been totally amazing. Now, I've actually written something. Is it all right if I read out what I've written?
Sure.
Okay, so today's guest is Sue SKELLY. Is that how you pronounce your surname?
Yes.
Sue SKELLY from sunny California. Yes. And you travelled not so sunny Spain, even though it was in July. It wasn't that sunny, was it? It wasn't that sunny in
Spain?
Yeah. It was quite...
I never had rain not one time.
Didn't you?
Not one time.
I think we avoided it as well. So anyway, if anything, they say that the Camino calls you, and I certainly feel that's right for you. I think you felt called to do the Camino. So if anything, let's first ask you that question. How on earth did you actually find out about the Camino in the first place?
Well, in 1987, I did my last semester in Madrid, which is where I met my husband.
Okay.
It was my very last semester of college. Our university, Bowling Green State University, has a campus in Madrid, and when I went to see my advisor that summer before, the only classes I had left were electives. I had fulfilled all my areas of study. So my advisor said, "Hey, you've taken a lot of Spanish classes. If you take 4 more, you can get a minor. Why don't you just go study abroad?" I was like, okay.
Let's do it.
So I went over to Madrid, and I studied from January to May. And our teacher was very into doing field trips for us. So one of the field trips was to Galicia, and she took us to Finisterre, by the way, and Santiago. And St. James Festival is July 25th, which happens to be my birthday.
That's right, yes.
So I knew at that moment, and back then we were allowed to put our hands in the stone, which I don't think pilgrims can do anymore. Yeah. And I knew at that moment I wanted to come back and do the Camino. I remember saying, I'm going to come back someday and walk here.
And that's exactly what you did. So was this your first journey?
Yeah, but fast forward, I kind of forgot about it, because I was 23 or 22. Fast forward to 2011, and I got a call from my dear friend Beth, and she said, "Meet me at the Irvine Theater. There's a movie you were supposed to see together." I said, okay. She didn't know anything about this. I sit down and I realized the movie was the way.
Good
and I remember telling her as I was walking out, I said, as soon as my youngest is in college, I'm going to go back and walk the way.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know what Sue is talking about, there's a famous film which is all about the Camino with Martin Sheen. It's written by what's his name? Emilio Estevez, and take a box of tissues with you because it's quite an amazing story. But a lot of people are inspired to walk the Camino on the back of that film. So go for it.
Yeah. So I always felt a calling to go. And then since 2011, I just kept meeting people that had either finished it or had met a guy who shaped surfboards outside of San Sebastian. And I just had a feeling as soon as I was talking to him, I knew I was supposed to go back. And I feel like the Camino or God has a way of just laying it on your heart. And when you forget about it, he drops little tidbits to remind you, hey, you're supposed to go do that. So I did it.
Hey, come on.
Yeah.
They do say, don't they, if you've heard about the Camino somehow, that means it's calling you. And that feeling gets stronger and stronger and stronger until you actually take that plunge and you just go for it. And you certainly did that in style this year. You sort of did it twice in a way. So I'm going to get people to tell you your story. I think that's amazing. So what happened on that very first day, and who was you with?
You mean when I started in France?
In France, yeah.
Okay. So I knew I was going to do the Camino, and my daughter was getting married in June. So I started researching, and I knew I either had to do it before her wedding or after her wedding. So over the holidays, I was watching every documentary. I sent away for books. And my husband says, I think I'm starting to see a theme. And I go, oh, yeah, I want to go do the Camino. Well, this year was our 30th wedding anniversary. So he said, let's go celebrate our anniversary together by doing the Camino. And I said, well, you don't have 5 weeks off work because he can't take off 5 weeks. He said, well, the plan was we would do 2 weeks together, and then I would finish after he left.
You would finish the Camino after he left?
By myself.
So he would fly home?
He would fly home, and I would stay and finish.
Okay.
So we walked to just shy of Burgos.
Okay.
And this was a part of our arrangement too. We were going to rent a car and go up and explore the Cantabria coast, which is absolutely stunning. So we walked to Burgos, rented a car, drove up to explore the coast. We explored the Picos de Europa, which is a gorgeous mountain range in northern Spain.
Okay.
And then the plan was for him to drive me back to Leon, and I was going to walk from Leon to Santiago by myself.
Okay. So I met you in Leon, but actually you wasn't really going to be there originally, was you?
No. So what did you say? I looked like a lost soul?
Yeah, I didn't actually read that bit out, but you did look like a little lost soul. As I met you in Leon in that monastery, I was pinning at my washing, and I looked across, and we had eye contact for the very first time. And I don't know why, I just wanted to put my arms around you. You wasn't crying or anything. I don't know why. It's like, come here. That's what I wanted to do. And I said, are you okay? And you went, no, not really. And then you proceeded to tell me the story of what literally just happened to you.
Yeah, that was July 4th, 2018, which was probably the most life-changing day of my life. I mean, other than giving birth to my children and getting married, that was life-changing. So what happened was, in the morning of July 3rd, I was in Leon, and the plan was my husband was just going to drive me to the point where the Camino started outside of town, because we were not staying in a hotel right on the Camino on the morning of July 3rd.
Okay.
And I woke up, it was raining. I had been sick, vomiting with some intestinal stuff going on. And I allowed those voices of fear in the night. I heard that self-doubt saying, what are you doing? You can't do this. What are you doing? You're sick. You can't finish. Why are you? Just go home. Just go home. It wasn't my husband saying, I mean, I was literally falling into self-doubt and fear and giving in. So I woke up, and when I saw the rain and then I was sick, I said, I think I'm just going to go home with you. And he goes, yeah, just come home. You don't have anything to prove to anybody. Just come home.
Okay.
So I called the airline real fast, and I was able to get on his flight and packed up my bag and said adios to the Camino. We were headed to Madrid. And as soon as I headed away from the Camino, I got a sick feeling in the pit of my stomach, like, what have I done? I've made a mistake. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And long story short, the next morning, we got to Madrid. We walked around town, and I had a sick feeling in the pit of my stomach, like I was not fulfilling the call that I really believe that God wanted me to do the Camino. I know it. And I had a sick feeling, because there's nothing worse than knowing you're not being obedient to a call that you've had, right?
Okay, yeah.
So I'm sitting on the airplane.
Actually on the airplane?
I was on the airplane, in the window seat in the third row, looking out the window, and I could see the bags from the previous flight coming off the airplane. And the pilot comes on. He says, ladies and gentlemen, we're delayed about 20 minutes. So we're going to, we had a lot more bags than we anticipated. Then we'll load your bags on, and we'll be on our way. I remember at that moment just feeling so sick. And I said, I was just literally like sitting there freaking out, and I started shaking, and just, I felt like, oh, I'm going to be so mad when I wake up in California tomorrow. And right then I look up and the aircraft doors closed, and I see the doors close. And then I see that thing go away from the airplane. And I just started bawling. And I said, I prayed right then. I said, I need a do-over. I need a do-over. And I just, at that moment, I felt like the biggest failure, because I knew I was supposed to do the Camino for 30 years. And I was just so mad at myself for chickening out. And right then, all of a sudden, I'm sitting in my seat, and I feel this like bile coming up, not to be too gross, but like literally felt nauseous. And I was in the window, my husband was in the aisle, and I go, move your legs. And I ran to the bathroom because the plane was still stopped. And I started throwing up in the bathroom, and a lot. And I washed my mouth off, washed my hands, opened the door, and the flight attendant standing there bewildered. And he said, did I just hear you have vomit? Because it was Swiss Air. And I said, yeah. And he goes, diarrhea too? Sorry if this is too much information.
No,
and
fine.
I was too honest. I go, yeah. And he says, I'm sorry, madam, but I'm mandated to alert the pilot. I said, why? He goes, I don't know if you're going to be able to fly. We may ask you to deboard. So the pilot comes out. He says, I'm sorry, but you're not allowed to fly. I'm going to have to kick you off the plane.
Yes.
So I immediately started bawling, because even though I'd asked for a do-over, I was still terrified. But the long story short, I went back. Luckily, they even said, well, the worst part was the pilot makes this announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, I know we're already delayed, but we're going to have another delay because there's a sick passenger who's asked to deboard. And it's like, I was like, wait, I did not ask. You're making me get off, So, so I went back to my seat. As you know, I had a little tiny backpack, so it was up above my seat. I went and got my stuff, and I was on my way. I went to the medical. What happened was they flagged my passport, so I wouldn't be able to fly.
Right.
And I kind of was laughing, because I was like, I'm like, well, I'm going to go to the Camino anyway. But they said it would be flagged for a while. So I had to go to the medical clinic, which was a blessing, because the doctor gave me a shot, and within 20 minutes, I felt the best I had felt the whole Camino.
Wow.
No more intestinal stuff. It was a mere, like whatever it was. He said it was a intestine relaxant. So within 2 hours after exiting the plane, I was on a train north to Lyon.
So you was on a train, but your husband was on a plane back to the US.
Yes.
And you was all on your own.
Yes.
Okay. And that's when.
And then I think, okay, so this is kind of a strange thing, because I've tried to find this woman, and I honestly think she was a guardian angel. And I know that sounds crazy, but I got off the train, and I'm feeling terrified. I mean, I was still a little weak, because I had been sick all night, and I'm walking, and I'm like, okay, as we all know, when you're on the Camino, if you get off the Camino, look for the cathedral, because the Camino always went by the cathedral. So I got off the train, walked down on the train station, looked in the skyline, and the only big building was the cathedral. So I just started walking towards the cathedral, found an arrow, and I thought, most albergues, as you know, are in the beginning of town. So I just started following the arrows backwards, because I just wanted to find an albergue to spend the night. And I figured I'd meet some pilgrims, because it was about 4 p.m. And I hear this American voice say, hi, are you looking for the albergue? And I looked over, and her name was Allison. And I'll never forget her. She had these gorgeous blue eyes and gray hair, and she was very tan. And I said, yeah. And she goes, here, follow me. I'll walk you there. So she takes me to the albergue, where the nun welcomed me. And I told the story. Well, no, the first girl that welcomes me is, get this, she's from California. There's 3 girls checking people in. One was literally from 30 minutes from my house. The other was from maybe 40 minutes from my house. And then the other one was an hour from my house. So right around me. And they were college kids doing their community service hours. They were studying for the summer abroad. And they were these gorgeous, dark complected girls, so I assumed they were Spaniards. And she's like, "Oh no, we're from California." And I just started bawling. And she's like, "What's wrong?" And I go, "You're a gift from God, because I'm terrified right now." It was just like, I felt like it was just so comforting to meet someone from my hometown that first moment. And then the nun stood up. She translated what had just happened. The nun stood up and hugged me. And I was like, okay, this is going to be good. And then literally I went over, washed my underwear out like you were, and met you.
Yeah.
So it was just, it was crazy. So yeah, that's how that day happened.
Talk about a whirlwind. So if somebody was meant to walk the Camino, that person was you. And I haven't heard any other story that's anything like that. I've heard of people being called, but that's like, you are doing this whether you like it or not.
I know. And the thing is, there hasn't been a day, honest to God, there has not been a day since that day I haven't been so grateful that happened.
Yeah.
Because I needed to do the Camino. I really needed to do the Camino.
Okay. So going back to some questions then, do you think was the Camino everything you thought it would be? And was it different, the two sections? Because obviously walking with your husband must have been completely different to actually, walking on your own to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Were you like two different people, or should I not ask that?
That's a really good question.
I know. Obviously, I've walked on my own, and I've walked with Rachel, my daughter, and I know that I probably was a completely different person when I walked on my own. And I think other people are like that. And I think you probably get more out of it when you walk on your own.
I think it's a journey that people should do alone. At least your first one. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Yeah, I mean, if I go back, I would possibly at least fly in with a friend, only with the agreement that we'll end up like you and Julia, or Jules. When you guys were walking, you pretty much knew where each other were at all times, but you gave each other the space and the freedom to kind of walk alone. And I think when you do it with your spouse, it's not the same. Yeah. So that's a good question.
I think that's a good message to give to people that are listening to this as well. So if you are walking with somebody else, you need to appreciate that they're doing it maybe for slightly different reasons. They also might walk at a different pace to you. So you need to have it's like some, not written rules.
Agreement. No, an agreement.
Exactly.
Because, well, I would encourage anybody that would want to go by themselves. You know how you'll say, "Oh, I want to find a friend to travel with."
Yeah.
Oh, I want to go to Paris. I got to see who will go with me. The Camino is not like just traveling. You can wake up in an albergue, as you know, and we're all in this together. I mean, we're all walking for one common purpose. And so you're going to meet people whether you want to or not. I mean, even if you don't want to, you walk by yourself, and you can, we met people that were just not interested in chit-chatting. A few people, I'm not going to mention names, and we all respected her. I love the blonde lady. I can't remember her name, but she was beautiful, and she was wonderful, and she was so sweet every time I talked. But I really got the vibe from her that she was not interested in chit-chatting. And I think all of us respected that.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think we all went through days like that. I know I certainly did, where actually I didn't want to talk to anyone. I just wanted to be on my own, doing my own thing. My lights are about to go. Whee! Sorry.
Oh.
Okay. I've got these lights that if you don't move, the lights go out. So I have to move my hands like that, and then the lights come back on. Crazy. So sorry about the interruption there.
I thought we were going to dance or something.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We did do a bit of dancing on the Camino, though. You loved your music.
Yes.
Do you remember Winnie the Pooh?
Yes.
So for you English people that are listening to this, you all know what Pooh Sticks is, but Sue had never heard of Pooh Sticks. Had you?
No.
You know when you chuck the stick over and it's a race, and then as soon as we finished it, you started singing Winnie the Pooh, and we didn't know what that was until we heard the chorus, and then for about 10 minutes we were just singing Winnie the Pooh. Yes.
Every little tummy all stuffed with fluff. Yeah.
We didn't know the words; we just knew the chorus bit. But anyway, we died. We
singing got me through a lot of long days.
Yeah,
I didn't put earbuds in so much because I liked listening to the birds and the rivers and the church bells and the sounds of the Camino are the best. So I never wore earbuds one time, but
okay.
singing, I sang a lot.
Yeah. Was
Yeah.
you there when we did the monks in, I
No.
can't remember the name of the place now, where there was a load of monks singing, but the monks were like, oh, for like half an hour.
Oh, wait, in
Oh,
Robin Hall?
that was it. Yes, and we
The
stayed
guy
at.
that sounded like the chipmunk? I
Yeah,
remember laughing so hard. And then I was sitting behind those three teenagers from Sevilla,
yeah.
Spain, and their
The
shoulders
shoulders are
started
going.
going up. And that night in the hostel, I said to their dad, I said, you guys almost got me kicked out of that mass because when they started singing and the one monk had a very high pitched voice, I'm sorry, I just got the giggles. And then I looked in front of me and the three teenagers were giggling. And I'm like, oh, this is not good. I can't laugh during mass. But you know what? I think God has a sense of humor. I think it's okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's talk about food then. Now, the good thing is, obviously, you'd spent some time previously in Madrid, and your Spanish was absolutely amazing. And I recommend anybody who's walking the Camino, if you can get together with somebody that speaks Spanish, it certainly
Or
helps
no,
those.
or take Spanish yourself.
Or take Spanish yourself, yes. I mean, I'd done a dinky little bit on an app that I've been doing for like nearly a year, so I got some basic stuff. But, when we was in that monastery in Samos,
Oh, yeah.
there's a fantastic monastery. You get to a point on the Camino where you can go either one way or another, and that actually happens in the last section quite often. You can go left or
Hmm.
right, and you have an option which way you want to go. And it's a bit like sliding doors. You take one way, and then you hear of people having an absolutely amazing time. And then we took like the left-hand route, and we ended up in the monastery with the monks. Um, but
I think we
you,
made the right choice. That was really beautiful, though. That was really special.
it,
Remember that river we went to where we were sitting on the bank of the river
yeah.
and Anna and then Ronan were like wading in the ice cold water? I don't know. That was a special memory for me that it was out of the way, though. We added a lot of miles.
We certainly did. That was when we got to Galatia. But obviously, when me and you met, we was literally just about to start. Well, I think the Meseta is. How did you feel about the Meseta? Did you find it as inspiring as people say, or did you find it a little bit challenging?
No, I remember I skipped it because I was that during the 6 days I would have been on the Meseta is when I went exploring with my husband to rent a car.
Okay, so
So, and
from
to be honest, I'm kind of sorry I did that because I think the
okay,
Meseta is magic. Everybody I've talked to said it's boring, but that's when you do the most soul searching.
okay. So
Most people I know that was their favorite part.
So when it came to soul searching, what part of the Camino, considering you've done all of it and skipped the Meseta, what part would you say that you actually did the most soul searching?
The day I walked from Rabanal to Molina Seca,
Okay.
um, I'm going to get emotional because I'm a very emotional person, but that was a very profound day. I had a rock. I didn't bring the rock from home, but I don't know if you've told your audience about the rock.
About
Yeah, and traditionally, pilgrims bring a rock from home and they lay it at the cross, and it's to symbolize either past sins or past baggage or hang-ups or something you want to shed from your life. And I didn't know what I didn't know what it was gonna be that day. And I got to the cross and I just sat down by myself and prayed, and just the thoughts started coming. And Jules gave me a little pink Sharpie, and I found a big piece of shale. So I wrote what I wanted to leave at the cross on the shale,
okay.
and took it up. And then afterwards, I just felt so free. And I mean, we could do that anywhere, but I think God honors when we do it with intention. And it was like I walked all the way to Spain, or walked across Spain to do this. I feel like it adds a gravity to that intention. And so that day, I remember leaving it, and I remember saying, okay, so I'm leaving this. What is it you want me to carry on?
Okay.
So, because I think when you leave something, you're supposed to exchange it for something you're going to replace it with.
Okay.
So I replaced those fears. I don't want to get too personal, but I laid a lot of fears there, and I laid the need to always be right, which is hard to admit, and I'm hoping that my family sees that. And I laid just the need for validation, and that is so freeing because I just turned 54, and I don't need to be validated by anybody. And there's a freedom that comes from that, you know. And I carried on strength, and I remember there was a really magical moment. I was walking with, I think I was with Jules, and we were walking on that one part after Robin All. Remember the crest?
Okay, yeah, I know exactly
And
where
it
you
was
mean.
just gorgeous, and the wildflowers and the breeze, and it was just so stunningly beautiful. And I remember I was praying for my son, and I prayed for my kids every day, but I was praying for my son Kevin. And
Have you got some tissues?
no, it was just really beautiful because I was praying for him, and he was going to have a gig, and he's a musician, and he was having a gig that night in San Francisco, and so I was praying for him, and all of a sudden my phone bell goes off, and it was a text from him, and he said, "Mom, I'm so proud of you. No matter what, finish." And he had no idea. He had no idea I thought about coming home. The kids didn't know about that.
No.
I mean, he didn't anyway. And so it was like we were like on this spiritual wavelength. I was praying for him right at the exact moment he sent me that text. And it was just, it just was like the most special moment because he just sent me the most encouraging text. He's like, "Mom, I love you and I'm so proud of you. Just finish. You can do this." And I don't know, it was just really special. It was very, very special. But that day was groundbreaking for me. You guys, as you know, you guys stopped in Acebo.
Yeah.
Remember where the pool was?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was at a lunch place by myself after you guys had left. I just needed to sit and chill. I had my feet up. I was drinking wine and having a really nice lunch. And I met Hana, the girl from Korea. Do you remember? Did you meet her? I said, "Hey, you want to sit and have lunch with me?" So she sat down. And then Kim from Sacramento, she
The
came
weather
and sat
girl.
down. Yeah. So the three of us had lunch. And I don't know if you know this, but remember the sky was getting black and it was like storming. It was supposed to rain, which it never rained but the sky was black. And I said, "I want to go on to Molina Seca. I want to go. I want to go all the way." In fact, well, Kim and Hannah said, "No, I want to go all the way too." So we set out, and that day was groundbreaking for me. And besides laying my stuff at the cross and then having that moment with my son, that was the day I walked more than I ever did. And it was for me, that was a very groundbreaking milestone day. Like I had a breakthrough that day that part of me wanted to stop with you guys and enjoy the pool. But I knew for some reason I was supposed to prove to myself that I could walk farther, even though my feet felt like they were going to fall off. And by the time I got to Molina Seca, my feet felt like they were going to fall off. But that was a very special day. Yeah, it was a breakthrough. The breakthroughs on the Camino happen when you think you can't do anymore. When you face your fears and you push past the pain, you literally have a breakthrough, and that's when you step into whatever you're called to do. It's like you're stepping into your destiny if you just keep pushing yourself.
Yeah.
And I learned something about myself that day that I'm stronger than I thought I was, and that I'm more of an athlete than I thought I was. I have a friend who was almost an Olympic volleyball player, and she used to always say, "You're an athlete, you just don't know you are."
You was a fast walker though, you know.
Oh,
and I know you
no.
actually you used the luggage transfer service a few times, so you had a
twice or three times maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know why, right?
Sorry?
You know why I used the transfer service? When I was walking up to the cross to lay my stone, I twisted my ankle And then the
That's
second
right.
morning after, my ankle was really swollen.
I'd forgotten about that. Yeah, you was quite
And
bad with that, weren't you?
yeah, so there was, for five, as you know, for €5, you put the little €5 bill in an envelope and you write your name and then you write the next town. And a little guy with a van comes and picks up your bag and carries it to the next town. It's magic.
But then,
But
that was a sensible thing to do. Whereas someone else that we met on the trail, a guy called Armando, he did exactly the same at La Cristofero. He slipped and hurt his ankle as well, but he soldiered on like a true Italian stallion, and didn't pass his pack on. And then a couple of days afterwards, he sort of lost us because he had to take a few days rest. Whereas just doing that just for a few days, paying your €5, fantastic way and great little service as well.
well, if you put, there are people who get kind of hung up on the, I don't know what you want to say, the rules, or they'll say, oh, you're not a real pilgrim if fill in the blank, if you take a taxi one day, or if you take a bus for an hour, or if you have someone carry your bag, you're not a real pilgrim.
Yeah.
But if you look at it back in the 12th century when the pilgrims started, if someone went by with a donkey and offered them a ride, I guarantee the pilgrims jumped on the back of the donkey.
I hadn't thought of it that way, yeah.
There's no shame. I mean, for me personally, it's your Camino, And if it's a difference of making it or not making it, you got to do whatever. You got to listen to your body. And yeah, I used the transfer service probably 3 times.
I would say I only met one person, and you know who we're talking about, who has a bit of a hang up about not being a true pilgrim because we've got a taxi or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think majority of the people have the same opinion as you just did. It's your Camino. You hike your hike in your own way. I mean, we did the Camino over a period of 2 years. So because we didn't do it all in one stretch, does that mean that I'm not a proper pilgrim?
No, you walked into town just like everybody else did.
Exactly.
With tears of joy. Yeah.
Tears of joy, yeah. And tears, emotional tears. That was probably one thing that surprised me and Julie, that I cried as much as I did, because I just don't do crying. And I think the changing point for me was at La Cristofero, which is the big cross with the mound. And I must admit, I walked up there thinking, wow, this is just a big telegraph pole with a little cross on the top. What's all the fuss about? And it is a bit like you walk through this. It's like there's a barrier, and you walk through it, and suddenly you're absorbed with all this emotion. It's really hard to explain unless you've actually been there. Yeah. So.
No, I really felt the presence of God there at the cross. I felt like at that point that's where God met me, because I hiked the Camino not for religious reasons. For me, there's religion and spirituality are 2 separate things.
Okay.
So I didn't do it because some pope or some guy in the sky said I had to. I did it because I truly wanted time of introspection, and I just had a gut feeling I was supposed to do it. But I really wanted to just have conversations with God a lot on the Camino. The fact that I met so many amazing people was like a surprise. I'll be honest, when I saw the movie The Way, I thought it was just a movie. And I thought, oh, I want to walk across Spain because I love the wine, I love the food, I love the scenery, I love the culture. And to be honest, the relationships they had in that movie, I thought, oh, that's just a movie. That doesn't happen in real life.
And it does. Well, you sort of experienced 2 Camino families. So you had the first part of your Camino where you had like one sort of family, and then obviously you met us lot. But even with us lot, there was like little pockets of, because you met some people and you was talking about, oh God, have you know so and so? It's like, no, we have no idea who you're talking about, Sue. And that it was just truly, you just do meet people from all walks of life. I think the special thing about the Camino is that you don't judge people. You don't look and see what car they've got, what house they've got. You don't really get to know what. No, you don't know what they're doing for a living until you really get into like a conversation down the line.
But even then, no one really talks about it that much.
No, No,
We
I didn't.
joke around. We have deep thoughts.
So people say, what do you talk about? You've met someone from a completely different part of the world and you're going to walk with them most of the day. What are the conversations about? Yeah,
You talk about human struggles that everybody has.
Yeah.
We're all so similar. You know that picture that we were all in. Should I show it?
Yeah, go show it.
Okay, hold on. And you said this is my favorite
not the
picture?
naked violinist.
You better explain that.
Okay, so while Sue's looking that up, just to let you know, in Santiago, we could hear this music playing, and it was like this violin, and it was like absolutely amazing. We were all like Pied Piper, all drawn to this sound. And as we turned round into this like little plaza, there's a guy standing there playing the violin, completely stark naked, absolutely no clothes on at all.
Can
that
you see
photo,
this?
Yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, do you realize in this photo, 6 nations are represented?
6 nations. So we've got France, Italy, US, UK, Serbia, Germany. That's probably the beauty. That's one of the things about the Camino, is that you also get to experience different cultures, which is one of the things that I wanted Rachel to experience. So you can imagine a 13-year-old experiencing all those different cultures at that age. I mean, it was a bit different when she was just coming up to 16, which we've just finished. But that very first one, we met people from Argentina and all over the world. And teaching little bits of different languages. So we was learning little bits of German and little bits of Israel or Israeli. I don't know if that's the right term. Hebrew. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, she's a remarkable young woman, so you should be very proud. But she soaked it in. It did not fall on deaf ears. I think Rachel is going to do amazing things with her life. She's an old soul. I really enjoyed getting to know her.
Anyway, should we ask some normal questions? Is that all right? Okay, so things like pack size and stuff like that. So you carried, what was your weight?
I like answering this. I really, when I left, the morning I left, my bag weighed 11 pounds.
11 pounds. So what's that
in kilograms?
Do you
use pounds or kilos?
Both. We're English people are pounds, so 11 pounds, that's amazing.
Yeah, and that was the morning I got on my scale without it and then with it, and I weighed 11 pounds more holding it. So that's how I weighed it.
Okay.
But by the end, it was probably down to 9 because I shed a lot of stuff even then.
Wow. I mean, that's crazy. So did you have, quick fire round. Okay, I'm just going to ask you some questions. So did you have a sleeping bag or a sleep sheet?
A silk sleep sheet. Silk
sleep sheet. Okay. Do you think people should take a sleeping bag?
No.
No?
Not unless you do it in the winter.
Okay.
No, I was never cold.
Okay.
Ever.
Your luxury item?
Lipstick.
Because
I wanted to keep my bag under 11 pounds. I mean, how could you not carry lipstick?
I didn't, but I know everybody else did. But I don't even do it when I'm.
That was all. That was it. That was the only one. And then I felt silly, so I never even put it on.
Did you not? I'm sure.
Sometimes, but
I think even Rachel did.
If you go down to dinner and everybody's all natural and you show up with lipstick, they're like, "What are you doing?"
I must admit, the feeling when you get to Santiago, and I think everybody went out and bought new clothes, because obviously you're wearing the same clothes day in, day out. You probably, I don't know if you did or not, but Rachel did, and I know I certainly bought new tops and things. It's like, oh, luxury, a new t-shirt.
You know what I bought?
No? What did you buy?
Do you remember Tammy? I kept hoping some of my Camino family would come in. I don't know if we've talked since then, because you guys went to Finisterre.
We did.
So the morning after, when you guys left, we stayed in that one spot all day.
Yeah.
I mean, when I say all day, I mean all day. And I kept praying, I hope some of my Camino family walks by. And I look up, and Tammy, who I had met in walking into San Juan de Ortega, comes walking by. I go, Tammy! So we're hugging each other. She's from, okay, she's going to kill me because she's seeing this. DC or North Carolina. Anyway, so she and I go shopping Thursday, and I bought a real bra because
bra
and pretty panties because I had been walking in a sports bra for so long. I just threw away my sports bra. I bought a real bra because,
To make you feel
and then
human.
I bought it, and I bought a dress. I just wanted to feel like a girl. Yeah. So I bought a dress and some panties and a bra. But because it was like after so long, you just feel like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So other questions I've got: food. What was your favourite food, and what was your worst food? I know what you're going to say with the worst food.
Well, that wasn't my worst. That was your my favorite food. Oh God, that's so hard. That's like asking my favorite child. I really never get sick of eating tortilla de España.
Okay. So potato tortilla.
Yeah, it's what I had for breakfast, like mid-morning, almost every day. It's almost like a frittata. You know that.
Yeah,
potatoes, onions, and egg. I love it.
Hot or cold?
Warm.
Warm. Okay.
And the gooier the better, with lots of onions.
Okay.
But I eat it here. I mean, I know how to make it in my kitchen. I'm not very good at it, but I'm getting better. But I never got sick of that. I know people complain that, oh, I'm so sick of tortilla, but it's magic food for the trail because eggs are a good source of protein, and then the potatoes are such good fuel that it's important to eat slow burning carbs. So I ate a tortilla every day, and I never got sick of it.
Did you have many pilgrim meals? And do you want to explain what a pilgrim meal is for those that are listening? Yeah,
it's usually €10 or €8, depending on where you are. And it is the deal of a lifetime sometimes, right?
It's a lot of food, though.
In Villafranca, oh my gosh.
Okay.
Remember we went?
Oh, at lunchtime.
They brought me a whole bottle of wine. I was the only one at the table that bought the pilgrim meal, and they brought an entire bottle of wine, and they just said, keep it. That was great.
This is before we went for a swim in the river.
So for $10, it's wine, water, a salad, a plate usually with meat and French fries, dessert, and coffee. I mean, where can you eat for that price?
For €10. Yeah, crazy. Yeah. Absolutely crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
I think one of the best foods we had was in Santiago, and we had that. We called it the Last Supper. And we had just like tapas, just kept coming and coming, and some of the food there was just to die for, which was brilliant.
That was fun.
That was
very fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's fast forward. So you've done the Santiago, you then went on to Paris, and I'm going to ask you to tell the story with the Notre Dame.
Oh, okay. Well, the only reason I went to Paris is because I was having a hard time figuring out how I was going to get home because I use airline points. Hold on, I'm choking. Hold on a second. So my friend Anita so graciously said, hey, come to Paris. I have an apartment exchange. I was like, oh my gosh. I know, seriously. So I got an $80 flight, $80 from Santiago to Paris, and then flew home from Paris. And we went walking through Notre Dame, and I don't know how, if we saw someone with a stamp or something, or someone said, oh, there's stamps in there. I don't know how we figured that out.
Do you want to explain what you mean by stamps?
Yeah. So this is a credential. This is my American credential. And every day you get stamps. So mine started in France, and you get stamps every day. See?
Yeah, fantastic.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
So I kept holding this square blank because I wanted the very last square to be the cathedral in Santiago.
Okay.
But I left Santiago. I forgot to get it. And so I was really bummed out because when I went to the Pilgrim office, they stamp here, as you know, they stamp here instead of here.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to stand in the line again for an hour. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm leaving with a blank spot on my passport. And it kind of made me sad. So when we were in Paris, the line to Notre Dame was like hundreds and hundreds of people long. And I went back the next day and I showed my blank spot to a nun, and she let me go in the back door. So with the help of a nun, I kind of snuck in the back door of Notre Dame and got this stamp.
And what a perfect way to end your
Yes,
credential.
yes, because I had such a special weekend with Anita and Denise.
Yeah,
So it was a great segue into coming back to real life.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So when you did get home, so how have things changed for you once you got home? People do say that, your Camino starts as soon as you get home. Your true
hmm
Camino starts when you get home. Is that how it felt for you?
Yeah, yeah. Gosh, so many things. The moment I'll never forget is seeing the airplane doors close. And I can close my eyes. I don't even have to close my eyes. And the moment I saw that airplane door close, that closed door was a symbol of me being a chicken, chickening out on every dream I've ever had. And
When you was
I
in
remember
Madrid, you mean?
when I
With
was in Madrid and the airline door closed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know if I'm making myself clear. And
Yeah.
I just that was that moment when I said to God, I need a do-over. Give me a second chance. And I threw up. I'll never forget that moment. And I know one thing is I if I feel I have a calling or an idea to do something, I'm not going to not do it anymore. And I have been literally living with gusto. And as you know, I've got this tattoo. It's an arrow.
It's an arrow.
Yeah. And every time I look down at it, it reminds me to ask God for the next step. So I look down at it so many times a day, and I just say, we don't have to. On the Camino, as you know, if you see a mountain, you don't go, oh my gosh, I have to climb that mountain. You look at the next arrow because anybody can walk to the next arrow. So I've kind of learned that you just I feel like I'm floating through life, letting the current take me, but looking for arrows, making sure I'm in the right current. But I don't get stressed out as much anymore about details. I just say, okay, I've just got to slow down, look for an arrow. But at the same time, if I have a dream, I'm going to do it because I think that if we have dreams or goals or call it a fantasy, call it a dream, that's in you for a reason. It's a calling. And like, for instance, for probably 4 years, I've had clients and friends ask me to write down recipes that I share and start a blog. And I've never done it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do it now. So I'm starting a blog to post the recipes because I'm a nutritionist.
Yeah.
And it's actually easier because if someone says, can you write down the recipe? It's kind of hard. So this way I can say, oh yeah,
There's the
here's my
link.
website. There's the link. Everything you need's on there. So I'm finally doing that. I mean, it's a baby step, but to me it's huge because I, for some reason, was chicken to do it. I was so afraid. I was afraid like people will laugh at me or, oh, that's corny or who does she think she is, But so I'm doing it. So that's how I feel different. And I don't know. I'll go on and on. I think people
Okay.
in my life, I don't know if you feel like this. I think people are sick of hearing me talk about the Camino.
Exactly. Well, this is part of the show. At the end of the day, it's for people who are interested in the Camino, but also, for people who want to reminisce about it and people who get what the Camino is about. So,
Yeah.
one of the last questions I've got before I ask you your quote of the day is if you've heard of somebody that's heard about the Camino and is thinking about it, what would you say to those people that are thinking about it?
Go, 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 go,
Just,
go.
just do it.
Just go.
Just
You
go.
know, I had the privilege to be mentored by a lady in her 70s. Her name's Anita, and she's the most inspiring woman I know. She's been a pilot. She's been an attorney. I mean, this lady's amazing. And she's done it 11 times. In fact, next summer she's going to go to Italy to walk. And what she always told me before I went is, if you can walk 4 miles, if anybody who can walk 4 miles can do the Camino.
Okay, that's good. That's good advice because you don't
Because
need to be super fit to do it. You
no, you
do
can
need to
walk
have
to
a
the
bit of
next.
training, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 You need a little bit of training. You need to be able to walk 4 miles with a pack.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
because you can always stop for coffee and put your feet up. Who do we know that did that a lot?
And Julie, if you're listening to this, you know exactly who we're talking about. So
I love her take on life. Oh God, this guy. But no, it's true. Like, just go and don't worry about it. And don't worry if you don't have a friend to go with you. Just go. Just go.
just go and do
It's
it.
fun to go with a group as far as knowing where someone is at any given moment, there's safety in that, I think. A little bit of accountability, like, oh, she didn't show up, we should go look for her, but like have someone that knows you well enough that if you're not there, they miss you or something, or get someone's phone number the first day.
Yeah.
That's what we did. We became family after one night.
We certainly did. Okay, so I've asked everybody that's a guest on the show to bring with them a quote or something that means something to them, or a poem or something like that. So I've absolutely no idea what Sue has prepared, but are you ready for this, Sue?
Just last week, a couple weeks ago, long after I came home, and when I read it, I broke out in goosebumps, and I said, this was written for me. So it's called Breaking Surface. Let no one keep you from your journey. No rabbi or priest, no mother who wants you to dig for treasures she misplaced. No father who won't let one life be enough. No lover who measures their worth by what you might give up for them. No voice that tells you in the night it can't be done. Let nothing dissuade you from seeing what you see or feeling the winds that make you want to dance alone, Jules. Or go where no one has yet to go. You are the only explorer. Your heart, the unreadable compass. Your soul, the shore of a promise too great to be ignored. And that is written by an American poet by the name of Mark Nepo.
Okay. So what we'll do is I'll put those in the comments below. It's like a little bit of a poem, I assume.
Yeah, it's
like a
from
passage.
A book. Okay. Yeah, it's a book that he wrote. It's in a book that he wrote. But the part that got me is no voice that tells you in the night it can't be done. And when I read that, I was like, this was written for me, because I did listen to that voice. Like, who do you think you are, thinking you can walk all the way to Santiago?
But you fought back. Or something fought with you as well. So
because you have to fight those voices when you're there. I'm not going to lie. Like when you set off, you have days where you just feel like giving up because your feet feel like they're going to fall off. Yeah. But by the time you get to Galicia, oh my gosh, you're walking on air. Don't you agree? Like
absolutely, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Sue, you've been a total inspiration. I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. You're a true Camino sister, and I'll give you a high five. And we're going to tell people to go take a hike and go walk the Camino. What do you
please give my love to Rachel.
I will.
I love that girl. And hi, Jules, who danced alone. She danced alone. I love that. I love that girl too. So I love all three of you guys. You guys were my very first Camino gift.
Cool. Well, you was our Camino angel as well, because you gave us advice every single day. So yeah, totally inspiring story. So thank you for sharing your story with us today, and thank you for being so authentic and honest. And you can see that in your eyes. So it's really, really appreciated.
Okay, cool. It was so good to see you.
All right, you take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Ta-da.